Hi, this is Christian, and welcome back to NFL Updates Express, your weekly dose of NFL news, coming your way, divisional round predictions. It's the first game of the divisional round, and it's a great NFC matchup when the Seattle Seahawks take on the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Falcons had a first-round bye, the number 2 seed in the NFC, and they've looked pretty good all season on offense, but their Achilles heel is on the defensive side of the ball. They do have some talent with Vic Beasley Jr., who quietly led the NFL in sacks this year, Desmond Trufant, a great corner out of Washington, and they also have safety Keanu Neal, who has made some hard-hitting plays and made a lot of great impact for the Atlanta Falcons in only his rookie year. For the Seattle Seahawks, well, we know defense wins championships, and Seattle has a Super Bowl ring with quarterback Russell Wilson at the helm. And we know that Richard Sherman, well, most teams just simply don't throw his way. So it will be up to the Atlanta Falcons to decide if they're just going to eliminate Julio Jones out of the equation or move him around, maybe put him in the slot and expose him to one of their other corners and see if the Seahawks are up to the challenge. Now, the last time these teams met, it was a close win for the Seattle Seahawks, winning 26-24 after a questionable pass interference call off of Julio Jones and Richard Sherman, and it was a no call. The Seahawks ended up getting the win 26-24, but I think this game will be a little bit different. I see the Atlanta Falcons probably having about the same offensive effort that they had in the last game, and even though Seattle did lose Earl Thomas, I just think Seattle's defense is very, very good. I mean, they don't really have much of a weakness outside of maybe their safety position, but I think the Seahawks defensive line will force Matt Ryan into a couple of turnovers, and I think on the Seattle side of the ball that Thomas Rawls will have a big day. I think that he can catch a couple of balls out of the backfield and help Russell Wilson out so he doesn't have to carry the entire load. I think this will be a very entertaining game, especially Julio Jones and Doug Baldwin, but ultimately, I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks on the road to beat the Atlanta Falcons by the score of 28-30. Dylan's prediction is 28-17 for the Seahawks. To close Saturday night, it's a good matchup when the Houston Texans take on the New England Patriots. Now, most people aren't giving the Houston Texans a chance in the world to beat the New England Patriots, arguably the best team in the National Football League right now, but there is hope for the Texans, and that relies on their defense. Now, the Texans have the number 1 ranked defense in the NFL, and they do have a lot of pieces on their defense that can create havoc for Tom Brady. And we've known in years past that the only way, seemingly, to beat Tom Brady is to force him into mistakes and get pressure on the ball, and Houston is exactly the team that can do that. They have Jadeveon Clowney, a first overall pick a couple of years ago, but he's been struggling with injuries. Until this year, he's broken out being the player that most people envisioned him to be, and he'll have to have another huge game like he did last week where he forced an interception on rookie Connor Cook of the Raiders, and maybe if he can have a similar impact against the New England Patriots, there could be hope at Gillette Stadium. But for the Texans to win, they're going to have to put up a lot of points, and I don't know if Brock Osweiler can do that. Certainly they have DeAndre Hopkins, they have Lamar Miller, but I just don't know. I mean, maybe they can get CJ Fedorowicz involved, or some other players. I can't really see it. The New England Patriots are a talented team on both sides of the ball. Tom Brady, of course, he's my MVP. Even missing 4 games, he only has 2 interceptions on the season, so 28 touchdown passes. And there could be a downfall to the Patriots, and that could be a little rust. Teams have shown that coming out of a bye, there's always that one team that just doesn't get it. I doubt that will be the Patriots, but you never know. Maybe the Texans will get lucky, and they could get out to a hot start and put the pressure on New England. But the Patriots have a lot of weapons. They have their tight end, Martellus Bennett, who's taken over for the injured Rob Gronkowski, who's out for the season. And they also have Julian Edelman, who makes a lot of plays down the field and can take a slant to the house, as we saw in Week 17 against Miami. And overall, they have LeGarrette Blount as well, and James White, 2 running backs. One's a speed guy, and one's powers through you. That's LeGarrette Blount. And he has multi-touchdowns in pretty much every game this year. I think this game will be a little bit close for the first half, but ultimately I think New England just pulls away. 34-14 Patriots. Dylan's prediction is the Patriots by the score of 31-17. to kick off the Sunday games, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs were on their bye, and they were looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers, which pretty much dominated Miami in all facets of the game. But I think the Kansas City Chiefs definitely have a path to win this game. It relies on their defense, but they'll also need to get their offense going as well. You already know the Kansas City Chiefs have one of the premier defenses and also special teams in the league. And speaking of special teams, we have Tyreek Hill, an explosive rookie, and he can make a lot of plays just on offense. We've seen him take a run 75-plus yards to the end zone. We've seen him take a lot of deep balls, like the games against Denver. And I think the Kansas City Chiefs are a very interesting team because they're not a team that you can think they could score 30-plus points on offense, but maybe they could through their defense and special teams as well. Now, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, we just saw their offensive explosion the past couple of weeks, excluding the Week 17 game where Le'Veon Bell and Ben Roethlisberger didn't play against the Cleveland Browns, and they still won that game. But I think the Pittsburgh Steelers' offense is really their key to maybe reaching the Super Bowl. I think the Steelers have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball, but I think their offense is going to have to come through in this one. The Chiefs' defense is very talented, and I think this will be a very tight game. I mean, a lot of people are saying the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to dominate them like they did last time when they played in Pittsburgh this season, but I don't see a dominating performance like the Steelers had a couple of weeks ago at the beginning of the season. Overall, I think this should be a very close game, and I think Alex Smith is going to make some plays down the field. I think Pittsburgh is susceptible to some deep bombs and deep plays like we saw Matt Moore do with Kenny Stills and Jarvis Landry, despite beating them by double digits. But ultimately, I just see the Pittsburgh Steelers being the better team in this one, and I think they'll advance to the AFC Championship game by the score of 21-17. Dylan's prediction is the Pittsburgh Steelers by the score of 24-21. To end Divisional Round Weekend, it's the Green Bay Packers taking on the Dallas Cowboys at AT&T Stadium. Now, the Packers, they completely dominated one of the best defenses of the New York Giants, and I was very surprised. I had the Giants winning that game, and I didn't expect Green Bay to put up over 30 points against the Giants defense, and it did help Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie went out, but to counter that, Jordy Nelson was out with an injury, and he probably won't be playing in this game either, so it'll be interesting to see how the Packers do when they play guys like Randall Cobb, who did have 3 touchdowns against the Giants defense last week. They have rookie Geronimo Allison, who made some plays, and also they have Devontae Adams, who also had a touchdown catch and made some plays downfield against the Giants. So I think the Packers will be just fine at the receiver position, even if they don't have Jordy Nelson, who's out with 2 fractured ribs. I think they're going to have to rely on their running game, too. I mean, certainly Aaron Rodgers could throw for another 300-plus yard performance against the Cowboys secondary, but I think it's going to be the Cowboys who are going to be running all over the Green Bay defense. The Packers have some injuries as well for them, and I don't know, Ezekiel Elliott versus the Packers defense, and I've counted the Dallas Cowboys out and I said, hey, they're not going to go to the Super Bowl, but the more I see them and the more I see Prescott, who doesn't really make a lot of mistakes, and Ezekiel Elliott running over defenses and jumping into kettle pots, well, I just think that the Dallas Cowboys are going to be too much for the Packers defense to handle. I do think this game will be a shootout and be very entertaining, but ultimately, I see Prescott and Elliott getting the job done on offense and taking down Rodgers and co. and the Packers. My score prediction is Cowboys 35, Packers 31. Dylan's is Cowboys 34, Packers 20. It was wild card weekend, and well, it wasn't very exciting as there was 4 blowouts, but here's the scores for wild card weekend. It was the Texans over the Raiders, 27-14. It was the Seahawks over the Lions, 26-6. It was the Steelers over the Dolphins, 30-12, and the Packers over the Giants, 38-13. I was very surprised how the Giants' inability to make plays down the stretch hurt them. They seemed to dominate that game for the first half, but until the Hail Mary, that seemed to turn the momentum for the Green Bay Packers as they completely dominated them in the fourth quarter. For the Steelers-Dolphins game, well, I was impressed with Matt Moore. A lot of people weren't, but after he got wrecked by Bud Dupree, and I think Dupree should have been fined for that, but I think Matt Moore played well given the circumstance against a tough team on the road. the Seahawks-Lions game, well, the Lions were cheated out of some calls again, but Thomas Rawls and Russell Wilson really deserved the win over the Lions. And finally, the Texans-Raiders game. Well, it was tough for Connor Cook in a tough situation. His first career start, he made the most out of it, but ultimately it wasn't enough to get the win versus the number 1 ranked defense in the Houston Texans. Thank you for watching NFL Updates Express. We'll see you back next week for the conference championship predictions.